Finally, after a month, I've decided to make the long-awaited Storytime Part 3. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Delta, and if you haven't seen Part 1 or Part 2, go watch those. Watch Part 1 first, gonna be in the link in the description. Then watch Part 2, obviously, and then come back. Did you do it? Just do it. Okay, so we left off at his mom calling my mom, and his mom basically just said that Stan saw the guy, and the guy offered Stan, drugs. I think it was like liquid Xanax or something. He took it, right? And dude, he couldn't move a muscle. Like, he was on the floor, he was crying, and bro, like, he does some hardcore stuff. Like, he would hotbox like his freaking room. He would do shrooms, and he would never
The next day,
get that wasted. I was in bed and I just heard. Walked up to my window. He was there. He's like, hey, come outside. And I'm like, okay. And it was summer, so I'm like, screw it, let's do it. I walked outside. He was there, and he said, we're going to someone's house. I said, oh, okay, probably Bonds, right? We were walking to his house. I said, so, just like, are you and I'm like, good? Okay, like, from yesterday, like, what happened? How are you allowed to go outside? He's like, I'm not allowed to go outside, but, I just came out regardless. And we walked over to his house. We walked past it to someone else's house, and, we knocked on the door. A grown-ass man answers the
face
door.
tats.
He was a ginger, and he matched the exact description of the kid who gave him the drugs. And I'm like, what? I pulled him over, and I said, didn't he like try to freaking drug you or something? Like, what? And he's like, no. He didn't make us do anything. We took that. And so, we walked inside. I got the immediate smell of thick THC, man. And sure enough, everyone was there. Literally everyone that I've mentioned. They were all sitting on the couch, and in front of the couch was a table. It had a bong, some pills, some mushrooms, and a gun with a little green box next to it. I sat on the couch, felt obligated to do it. And he walked over to me and bent down, looked me straight in the face, like 2 inches away from my face. His eyes bloodshot red. He had just some look on his face, like he's lived through things. I don't want to make this sound cliched, but like, I can tell he's seen some things. And he reached for something on the table. I hoped it wasn't the gun. I was praying for my life that it wasn't the gun. He said, are you nervous? I didn't know what to say. I was frozen. I was in shock. But instead of the gun, he reached for what I thought was a jewel, but it actually ended up being like a THC pen. Handed it to me and said, you need this, bro. You look anxious. So I grabbed it after he handed it to me, and if you guys don't know, it has a button on it that you push to make like the vapor come out. And I just grabbed it and I held it to my mouth and just sucked and said, it's probably out of power, let's charge it, right? So plugged it in, and my friend Stan said, the bong doesn't run on power. Hit that instead. And long story short, he kind of peer pressured me to do it. But yeah, if you guys are like going through like something like that, peer pressure really isn't do it and you're cool. Like, you can easily get out of situations like that. I was young. I'm still young, man. I was way too young to be involved in that type of stuff. And just it could have been really avoidable. That's where I'm trying to get at. But I didn't, and I took the rip. felt relaxed, at least for a while. So I took a hit and he said, "Nah, that was nothing, bro. Take another one." And I'm like, okay. I took the biggest rip of all time, man. Felt relaxed for a little bit. And then I got anxious, really, really anxious. And, they can tell I was freaking out. So Stan said, "Hey, man, you go outside, get some fresh air." And I'm like, okay. So, I walked outside and instantly threw up from the second story building. So I went down the stairs and I went on the grass and I just fell. I was so anxious. I couldn't catch my breath. I was just thinking, my mom's gonna kill me. My mom can't find out. My dad can't find out. I couldn't even catch my breath, man. I felt like I was dying. And I knew I couldn't go home like that. I was high off my mind. So I called my mom and I didn't call her. I texted her, but same thing. I texted my mom and I said, "Hey, my friend Stan is like really traumatized from yesterday. Can I stay over at his house and, help him cope a little bit?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. You're such a good friend, right?" So, it started to get dark and I went over at his house and, we went into like a little tent he has in his room and I was still freaking out. Now, like for part 4, because, man, this story gets even better, man.